Hey, welcome back to another episode of It's a Football Thing, the EPL recap. I'm RJ the Balanced Blue, joined by my fellow co-host and champion mate, Scott the not-so-happy Gooner, and Rob the relieved Red Devil. Robbie, we'll go to you first, my man. How you doing?
Tired, mate. I've had a big one. Obviously, been up since the 1:30, and like I said, I wasn't accounting for extra time and penalty shootout. So, yeah, got to work a little bit later than I should have this morning. But look, it was worth it. It's kind of a split thing. We'll get into later, but I'm happy. But I'm I'm already nervous for that final already. So it's a bit of two sides of the coin. But I'm happy to see you boys as always. Lots to talk about this weekend, boys. A lot happened. Lots of twists and turns in the Premier League. Can't wait to unpack it all.
Absolutely, and happy to see you too, man, Chester. But Scott, how you doing, bro? I know you're looking a little bit tired, a bit wired. You look defeated, mate. What's going on?
Yeah, no, look, not defeated, but that the shine that started at the beginning of the season and has been going for a while, some of that shine's starting to wear off. It's kind of like marriage, boys. The shine wears off after a few years, and it's just,
Speak for yourself, mate. I've never been
this is
happier.
what I'm used to, mate. This is life. No, I'm only kidding. I love my wife. She goes all right. She's a good egg.
RJ is signing this week. Chelsea didn't lose. I can see the shine coming off his head. It looks good.
Well, mate, I tell you what, there's lots happening on that front, but let's just set the scene very high level. Some dramatic results across the league. FA Cup, the finals introduced. You know, Newcastle was excellent, some would say. Bournemouth got hammered. It was just one of those weekends where it was just goals galore, controversies. It was what football's about, boys. But let's not muck around and get straight into it, hey?
Yeah, look, let's kick off with the FA Cup, boys, and a good evening to Tom and Shane who are here in the chat. I think both will be happy for very different reasons. Let's start with FA Cup. We've got a Manchester derby in the FA Cup final. Big rivals, big clubs. Well, one of them's a big club anyway. One's big in terms of what they're doing in football at the moment. Robbie, can you stop Pep Guardiola's Manchester City juggernaut, or is an FA Cup going to the blue side of Manchester?
Oh, geez, it's a bit early for that, Scotty. But look, I'm not going to honestly answer it, because if you're going to tell me my honest answer, I think City at this stage is going to win the treble. I can't see anyone stopping them in all competitions. And look, you have to be neutral and you have to be thinking at the moment they're just hammering everyone. They've got the depth. They're riding high. They look like they've really clicked into gear, especially in this last month. Like everyone's like, City's got a mistake in them every now and then. We don't know if they're going to be consistent. In these last couple of weeks, they've had to win their games, and they're winning games, and they're winning them in style as well. So, look, when it comes to the thing, I think they had I think it would have been an absolute miracle, like a Wigan back in FA Cup final, if Sheffield done anything to them 2 nights ago. Easy 3-0 hat-trick for Mahrez, which was a nice hat-trick. The only different thing is, obviously, Haaland wasn't on the score sheet, not that they needed him to be. For us today, look, it wasn't an exciting game, and I'm going to call it how it is. I think the majority of the game was very down the middle, 50-50. I think they probably had the better of us in the first half. We kind of, they had more of the possession. We kind of hit them on the break, which is unlikely for us to see. I don't really see that under Ten Hag a lot. But look, we have to think as well how many games and fatigue, injuries have all caught up, especially coming off the back of a really bad Europa League exit a couple of days ago. I had the backup this morning. Second half, we really went for that. I thought we were going to try and, we definitely went to try and win it in the 90. And then, obviously, nil-all. There was about two clear-cut chances, I'd say, on each. So it was pretty, like I said, right down the middle. Extra time came and went. And then, look, we all know the theatre and the lottery of penalty shootouts. And, look, I have to say, from both sides, the penalties were flawless. Obviously, Mr.
Solly March.
Yeah, Solly March. Solly March obviously had a bit of the mind games with Workhorse, skied it, and then, mate, not just the Iceman for the penalty, but Victor Lindelof was man of the match in the game as well. Honestly, he's been someone we can rely on, not just this today, but all season. When he's had to step in, he's come in. He's been excellent. And for me, I have to say Aaron Wan-Bissaka was my second man of the match as well. He honestly, I can say, had Matoma in his pocket all day. That was such a really good battle to watch. So, look, we're in the FA Cup final. I'm happy. You got to be happy about it, man. It's FA Cup final. It's a major final. We're going to be up against Manchester derby, first time ever in a major cup final. Very nervous. Obviously, we're going to go in as underdogs, as crazily we went in today. But in our first season to have won a trophy, to be in another final, and if we wrap up top 4, I'm absolutely wrapped with that.
Look, Arj, I want to come to you because Robbie touches on a good point about this Manchester City treble, which should terrify them because they've held this treble achievement up, and it's a massive achievement. But as Declared says here, no team's going to get a better chance to win a treble than Manchester City. I saw Anthony in the chat too, a big Inter fan. It is nice. There's the romance around a Milan derby in the semi-finals of the Champions League. But at the risk of this coming back to bite me on the backside, I think City have the Champions League. I think the winner of the Champions League comes from their game against Madrid. I would love AC Milan to win it for my boy Giroud, but I think City take the Champions League. Are Manchester United good enough to snatch an FA Cup from them? I don't think so. And have we completely handed them the advantage in the title race? We have. So I have to agree with what Declared said. No team's going to have a better chance to do that treble than Manchester City. RJ, I know you're a big Inter fan as well. Talk to me about that. Is the treble on for City?
Of course it's on. They're the strongest team on the planet at the moment. They have to be based on form, based on depth, based on the managerial class of Guardiola. And they're a team they're in it for the long race. They've been behind in the Premier League most of the season. They've been quietly ticking by in other competitions. But they're like the Cobra. I've been watching Cobra Kai lately. They're like a Cobra. They're sitting dormant and they're waiting for their time to strike. And this is their time at the moment. So it's hard to see them not getting at least 2 out of 3 here. It's just, I don't know, with Manchester United, it's not Wrexham. Like, this is not a team that's just on the rise. This is still Manchester United. They've still had a strong season. Yeah, they've had a bit of a wobbly patch. But Manchester City aren't impervious to faults. Like, they haven't been perfect all season. So, I don't know. I wouldn't completely write off Manchester United in a one-game environment, causing a bit of an upset. If anything, I say the FA Cup is something where they look probably most vulnerable.
Fair shout. Robbie, before we move on, any other thoughts on City and the treble there?
Look, it's same position you'd be if the undefeated record would be under threat. If it was the last game of the season, you'd be going for that team because it's something your whole time. We've always held that. It's a very rare thing, the only English team to do it. And crazy enough, it's been in the last 5 years that I feel like it's been under threat every year. Liverpool came close to the quad last year. Before that, it was City on for the quad again. But you know what? We say City's going to win the Champions League every year. We say that someone's going to get the quad or the trip every year, but it's harder than you think. And look, right now, based on what we're seeing, it looks very, very possible. But it's slightly disrespectful to Arsenal, who have been there all season. Real Madrid, the kings of Europe, 14-time European champions. They're going to go head-to-head twice with them. And then, obviously, us on our day, we've had one. They pumped us at the Etihad. We got to win at Old Trafford. It's 50-50 this season. In a 90-minute game, anything can happen.
True that, Robbie.
Like we said today, Brighton went in on odds today, favourite, and we come through on a penalty shootout. Wigan beat them back in 2012 or whatever it was. Who would have seen that coming? We've seen crazy things in football. But straight down the line as a bookie, at the moment, they're definitely on for it.
Hard to argue with that. Look, let's move on, because something that maybe wasn't seen by the bookies, certainly wasn't seen by any of us. Newcastle United take a bow. Some absolutely sexy football this morning, and against Spurs too. Like, I'm feeling pretty crappy about football at the moment, to be honest. But seeing that result, it did bring a smile for a moment. And Shane just sharing his view on that. He reckons if they didn't get smacked by Villa last weekend, it wouldn't have happened. The players had a point to prove, and they answered the call. And answered the call they did. Scintillating football by Newcastle. Blitzkrieg football by Newcastle. Spurs never stood a chance to go 5 goals up in the first 25 minutes.
Mental.
Tottenham Hotspur, sort yourself out, get a manager in, cash in on Harry Kane, use that money to add a couple of really, really good players, because that club needs to get itself back on track. It's an absolute farce what's going on there. Arj, did that result shock you this morning?
The extent of it did, like, as I said, I watched it live and I was putting in a group chat. It was like, it's like that Vince McMahon meme, when he's sitting there and all of a sudden it gets worse and worse and he's like just exploding. It's just 21 minutes, 5-0. And some of the quality of those goals, like my favorite one, I think, was
the third one. I like
the one with the swinger, the pass, the outside of the
yes, the outside
that one
the
was
fruit ball.
Isaac's one. Yeah,
that was very
but
nice.
honestly, they just, like you said, Scott, blitzkrieg start, absolutely annihilated them. Spurs, and Marty, to be fair, Marty, proud Spurs fan, of course, he called the result. I just didn't think it was going to be as emphatic as it was, given the context of where they are. But they are a rudderless team at the moment. Like, Chelsea's absolutely woeful and pathetic. But considering what Tottenham have got to play for, their situation, let's just say they're dire in more ways than one. So it's just really woeful from them.
Well, you know what? You mentioned there thinking about what Tottenham have to play for. And it's been like a miracle that they've been around the top four, because I feel like they've lost more games than they've won. Let's have a look at the table at this point. City and Arsenal are done for top four. I think it's mathematically done for both those clubs now as well. Newcastle United, 31 games played, 59 points. If Manchester United win their game in hand, they're locked in third. And then we've got Spurs, Villa, Liverpool, Brighton. Few teams fighting for this spot. I actually think the top four is going to be Arsenal, City, Manchester United, Newcastle. I think Spurs are going to fall out now. And how do you back up after that kind of result? I think that just demoralises the team. They're a bit of a basket case. But that's my top four at this point. City, Arsenal, Newcastle, United. What about you, Rob?
Top four?
Top four. Who's getting the Champions League spot?
Yeah, I think top four as is, except I do think we'll get third. Newcastle will have fourth. Obviously, we play Spurs on Friday, so that's a massive game for us. For me, we just don't lose that game. I'll even take the draw just to keep the same points. We've got 2 games in hand over them with a buffer already. But yeah, look, I'm not going to go, punching them while they're down at the moment, only because
do it, mate. Feel free, punch them.
For the reason that Shane said, Newcastle got touched up the week before against Villa and came out and really showed it. And it would not surprise me with the Spurs, hoping not, but getting touched up, obviously, as they did today. We play them at home. You'd think they'd have a reaction, even though they're a bit of a circus at the moment, managerial-wise, all over the place. I think we can get a result there, but, we've seen crazy things in football as well. That's a massive game for them. If they don't beat us, I don't see them making top four.
And there's even Fabrizio's just tweeted that Stellini's position is under threat. I mean, he's the caretaker manager. He's not
he's caring anyway.
No, they need to get Bruno Sartor back.
I'm ready, boys. I'm pumped, mate. I told you. Hey, I'm undefeated. I haven't conceded a goal against Liverpool. My resume speaks for itself, boys. Hey, I tell you what, we're looking at this list. I agree. Look, I agree that the top four is what you see it. But I'd love to see Brighton make a play and push 3 and 4 all the way. But you look at their run. They've got United, they've got City, they've got Arsenal, they've got Newcastle.
They've got a big
team. I tell you what, though, Brighton, they could be an influential team in terms of how that top four, particularly the title race, because like I said, both Arsenal and City play. And we know on their day, they can be more than a banana skin for any team. So they're a team I'm going to be watching very closely.
Villa as well, man. I reckon Villa can get a European spot of some kind as well.
Yeah, for sure.
It's exciting times, boys. Let's talk a little bit about your club, RJ. We will, of course. I'm just putting it off. We will talk about
City. You mean, just to be clear.
You're the balanced blue, just the sky blue. Yeah,
exactly.
We will talk Arsenal and title race, of course, but rumors intensifying that Chelsea and Maurizio Pochettino are getting close to agreeing a deal for him to become your next gaffer. I've got really clear views on this, but the people don't want to hear my views on Chelsea. They want to hear yours. Talk to me about that. Would you be happy with Pochettino at the helm?
Yeah, to be honest, I was a little bit shocked that he emerged as one of the leading candidates. And shout out to our boy, our local proud Aussie, Ange Postecoglou, reportedly in the mix as well. So great guns for him for even being in that conversation. So I hope he stays away from the poison chalice personally. But look, Pochettino, he done some great things at Spurs. Went close to the Champions League, didn't win anything. But if you're going to judge people by what they won at Spurs, then nobody would do good, because we've all seen the quality that's come and gone out of that club. He has been someone that I've had a lot of respect for over the years, and I've also had a little bit of hatred for him because of what he's done to our club when he was in his peak powers at the time. But I just think, at first I was like, oh, I don't want someone with that Spurs tainted history coming in, and they'll never fully get what it's like to be Chelsea. But football's broader than that. He's had a stint away from Spurs. He's been at PSG, had mixed results there. But I think he's a manager that knows how to work with a group of youngsters. He knows how to work in a project type of environment. So in short, boys, I think we could do a lot worse than getting him in. And for like Nagelsmann reportedly come out and said he was a little bit disappointed with the recruitment process and thought that it was just a formality, etc., etc. To me, that's a little bit, if true, that's a little bit naive from his side of things. And apparently Luis Enrique, his demands were a little bit unreasonable and they had some red flags about him. So if they were to make the announcement today, Pochettino is the next permanent manager, I'd give him my backing 100%, because I think that he's someone that's worth getting behind, because he has had that proven EPL credibility.
Robbie, Nagelsmann withdrew from discussions with them, who I think would have been a good fit. Enrique demands, as RJ said, probably too much. What do you think about Poch going there?
First thing when I heard Poch, it was a bit like RJ. One of those managers I didn't see at Chelsea, obviously for the given reasons of the whole Spurs thing. But look, we've seen that with Jose Mourinho. He's gone around now and stuff like that. And it's not like he's gone from a direct rival to them. He's gone to PSG, as he said. For me, out of the three or out of the candidates that we've heard, I think he's the best one. And I won't talk him down at all, because he was my first choice for United before we got Ten Hag. And obviously, I didn't know that much about Ten Hag. I'd seen Mauricio Pochettino in the Premier League in the flesh, what he'd done at Southampton, what he'd done at Spurs, which I really respected, especially on a minimum wage. And as RJ said, very good with, promoting youth or working with the youth. He milked the hell out of that squad. And like I said, if he did get that, that 90-minute turnaround, and that was a Champions League or the time when he bottled the league, he could have had a lot more credibility. Look, obviously it kind of makes a little bit of sense with the whole project that Chelsea's going with, all these buying all these talents and all these youth makes sense. At the end of the day, he's not a Premier League winner. So, that's a question mark there, because Chelsea do like to go for a winner of some kind. Yeah, I know he's won at PSG, but think of that what you like. But when the likes of, you've seen, your Contes, your Mourinho's, your people like that, real high stats. Obviously, Potter didn't make it there. But for me, I think it's a great appointment if it happens. And, again, it's someone, I never count Chelsea out no matter what. So if they were to go get Pochettino, straight away I'd be thinking about them as a threat next year again. So, look, I think I was pretty amazed how quick the other ones turned away. I really thought that the front runner would have been Nagelsmann. But, if you guys get Mopa, I think he's probably the pick of the bunch.
Yeah, look, for me, Mauricio Pochettino, despite being the gaffer at Spurs, who are our enemies, he did a really good job there. Considering the culture of that club, Daniel Levy, the strength of the league as a whole and where Spurs were in terms of their ambition, he did a brilliant job. I would say he overachieved with Tottenham. He built a lot around a couple of key players. He's dealt with egos before at PSG, and there are plenty of egos at Chelsea. I'm not sure why at the moment their egos should all be deflated. They've been absolute flops, a lot of them. But he knows how to get a team playing good football. He should know by now how to deal with an ego. And I think he'd be a really good appointment. I think he'll bring a sense of calm, structure, and get some really good stuff out of the Chelsea squad, because Potter wasn't getting enough out of that squad, and it's just not right at Chelsea. But I would be moving for Poch ASAP. The only other person who I think would be a better appointment would be Carlo Ancelotti. Now, strong words that he may not be at Madrid. next season. I think if you had a choice between Poch and Ancelotti, I take Ancelotti at Chelsea every day of the week over Poch. But mate, there's not really anyone else for.
Well,
Todd
you've also
Bowley.
got the wild card of Mourinho 3.0. That was someone a lot of people are talking about.
I
But
think
look,
you
just
guys have
quickly
to
back
move
on
away from
Poch.
this.
I know, but who doesn't love that guy? That guy's just, you can't not love him. Same with Ancelotti, to be fair. But I know he doesn't like a specialist in failure. But with Pochettino, apparently he impressed them with the level of detail and the vision he had for players like Levi Colwill, who's due to come back in our defence, and playing Mudryk as a little bit more of in a rapid fire sort of up forward position. So I think he's someone that's got a pretty clear vision about how he wants to use the current group of players. But also you've got to remember, in the summer window, or the end of the season, I should say, they're going to do a mass clean out of all of the excess. So it's going to be interesting to see who they decide to keep. Do they renew Mason Mount's contract? Does Thiago Silva? Apparently there's talks about him rescinding his one, and therefore, what does that mean? Koulibaly, does he return? Does Raheem Sterling now cut his losses? So there's so many questions with this overinflated Chelsea squad. But again, if Pochettino signs on the dotted line, you're not going to get too much complaints out of him.
Just lastly on Poch, I think, a Bowley would like him because I do think one thing about Poch, I'd say he's a yes man, especially being under Levy for so long. And the way we've seen already with Bowley, the way he's acted from looking outside in, I think that would be another tick in the box on his side anyway.
Yeah, I don't know about, I know what you mean. I hear a lot about this whole Bowley wants a yes man. He wants someone that's going to comply and cooperate. Look, I think for Pochettino, I wouldn't necessarily classify him as a yes man. I think, if anything, I don't know if you'd say a yes man because he's operated.
Spurs, never got
back. But that's not. But
He
he's
never
able
got
to. Yeah, but he had such a successful run by probably trying to push back and do the best with what he had. I don't think he was a yes man per se. Because
I reckon he was a yes man at
results.
Spurs. I think he was a yes man at PSG. That's my opinion anyway.
Yeah, I don't know. But what is a yes man anyway? What's your definition of a yes man?
For
Yes
me,
where I'm getting to.
doesn't have. For me, look at Ten Hag. For me, he has a lot of power. The clubs let him come in. He's done transfers. He's done this. He's done it this way. He's done it that way. For me, Pochettino, we can clearly see at Spurs and PSG, the board would overpower him. If they wanted to go do the transfer, I could see Bowley going out and doing his transfers as PSG did. He's the team. I think he'll just do a better job than Potter at working with what he's got.
Todd Bowley would just do exactly what he did to Graham Potter. It would be the Todd Bowley show, and you would. If I was a Chelsea fan, my biggest hope for the future would be that the financial failures of Todd Bowley in this transfer window, the on-field failures, the failure with Graham Potter, my hope would be that Todd Bowley wears that, learns his lesson, shuts up and gets out of the way, because Todd Bowley is not a football man. Todd Bowley's got lots of money and was able to purchase Chelsea Football Club. That's where his strength is. Having money, buying the football club. Back up, give your manager the money, give the football people the money, and get out of the way. There's talk about coming into the dressing room, talking to players. Mate, just piss off. What are you doing? What are you doing? You do not know football. Get out of the way. Let the soccer people, football people, call it what you will. Let them run the show. It's not you. It ain't your thing.
Yeah, and look, for me, I just don't. For the yes man thing, it's almost like they're just rule following robots in that sense. To me, it's not that. I think they're just recognizing they've got to work within that constraint and get the best outcome of what they've got. So, look, Conte, he was no yes man, and look how well that's ended for him. So, I don't know. Sometimes you've got to have the right personality, and sometimes you've got to have the right club to be able to push back on, to be a yes man or a no man or whatever in between. And look, with Todd Bowley, I agree. I understand he's probably trying to go in and trying to cause a bit of a stir up or trying to motivate them, but it's really not your place to do that. So I think that undermines the manager personally. But when you're just pumping that much money in, you don't care what it undermines. You want to go in there. If you want to have a voice, you've paid to have that voice. So I don't agree with it, but hey, it's his money at the end of the day, right?
That's it, boys. Let's move on. Let's move on to my club. The word bottle has come across my timeline a fair bit. Yeah, Robbie's got his pink drink bottle there. Suits his haircut well. Have we bottled it? Not yet. Not yet, because I strongly believe that both clubs, Manchester City and Arsenal, will both drop more points between now and the end of the season. They're going to have to concentrate on the Champions League as well. Those fixtures against Madrid are going to be intense and painstaking. They'll have an FA Cup final at the back end of the season. They'll be worrying about us as well. We've got to play. So I'm not saying that we bottled it. If I had to take my Arsenal hat off and I had to say who I think will be the Premier League champions, it's Manchester City at the moment. And that's quite simple. The last three results have really, really hurt. To be 2-0 up at Anfield, drop points, disgrace. To be 2-0 up quickly against relegation battling West Ham, disgrace. To then concede 3 goals to the team at the bottom of the league, disgrace. I don't care that we came back and drew. And yes, the Arsenal fan base did what we always do. It's a positivity competition. We fought back. We've been doing well all season. We're a young squad. If you can't support us when we drop points, you're not a real fan. Just keep talking. If you're not hurting and pissed off after the last 3 results, you're not a real fan. If you're able to just say, yeah, we did well for most of the season, doesn't really matter now. No one expected us to win a title. I don't think you're a real fan. Did I expect us to win a title? Absolutely not, boys. Did I say every time it was brought up on this show, I'm enjoying it while it lasts? Because we know it may not last forever. Yeah. But to have it in our hands and then lose that opportunity to control our destiny, that's the part that really grinds my gears. I could understand if it was still in our hands today and then we went and played Manchester City and they beat us, and then maybe we got beat by Brighton and then it was advantage Manchester City. I could cop that. What's hard to cop is dropping points when you're 2-0 up against Liverpool, 2-0 up against West Ham, and then to concede 3 to Southampton. That's the part that's frustrating. That's why it is a bottle. That, to me, at this point, if we don't win the title, people will look at those 3 consecutive fixtures and say, that's where Arsenal bottled it. They bottled it there. Again, I'm not saying if we lost to City and then lost to Brighton that I'd be using the term bottling it, because they're tough fixtures. But 2-0 Liverpool, 2-0 West Ham, and then conceding 3, that's not good enough. We've still got work to do. What do you make of that, Robbie? Because I know that the second, as Tom says, the second he publicly supported us, mate, he put the what do you Italians call the eye? The molecule? What do you call it?
The molecule.
You put that on us, Tom. I know you're not even Italian, mate, but you put that eye on us. I know we've had a weird little bond going on lately, Rob. I've been sticking up for United. I know you wanted us to win it over City. Have we bottled it? Do you think bottled it is a fair term?
The last month has not been title challenging form, put it that way, and title challenging mentality. And yeah, you could say in the last month you've bottled your destiny because it's not over yet. And you said both teams. The thing is, you've literally just, as you said before, you've handed it into City's hands now. If City go on and win every game from here, they're the champions no matter what. That special exactly what. I'm not going to say much more because what you said, I totally agree with nearly all of it about the results. About if you got to the City game and they beat you, and then because you guys have still got a bit of a hard running too. You got Chelsea that'll do everything to beat you. You got Newcastle as well, or you played Newcastle now?
Newcastle, Chelsea, City,
at
Brighton.
Newcastle. Brighton, like you said, is always a hard team. Mate, we got them in a few weeks. I'm worried about playing them. And City at City. So there's 4 already out of that's half of your games for your running that are big, big games. So like I said, if you were in your destination, you still had your 7-point gap, whatever. they've got a game in hand, and then you got to the City game, they pegged you back, and then you think, fair enough, that just happens. But exactly what you said, to for the last 3 games, they only get 3 points, and for me, it's lucky to get 3 points because you could have lost.
Liverpool should have beat us.
Liverpool should have beat us. West Ham had an opportunity, that time off the bar where Antonio hit the bar. That could have been 3-2 as well. And you can't go down at home and drop points to last against Southampton. I know they're relegation battles.
We haven't beat Southampton this year. That's 5 points that we could have in our balance.
Yeah, so look, I'm not going to say much more because I think you wrapped it up quite well. So we'll see what RJ's got to say.
Roscoe?
There's still got 2 games. There's means you have 8 games to play, and nothing's cut and dry. You talked about Arsenal's run. City still got Brighton away, Brentford away, Chelsea. You have even relegation threatened teams as well with Everton away. So to just go and say 8 games to go, we've bottled it, it's way premature. It's still over 20% of the league to go. So it's not a good situation for Arsenal. 3 points out of 9. It's pretty laughable given who the opposition was. But that's the ebbs and flows of the Premier League, right? This is the time to stand up and prove whether or not you deserve this title. So advantage City, yes, we know they have the experience. We know they've been there, done that, run that, all that business. But at the same time, they've also got the disadvantage of other competitions distracting them, more potential for injuries, all of that. So it's pretty much very close to me, not 70-30. I'd probably say 55-45 split to City at the moment.
Wow.
But your game with them becomes a 6-pointer now. So I'm enjoying watching it from afar down near in mid-table mayhem land. So
that's it. And again, I think there's been overreaction from Arsenal fans on both sides. There's been the ones trying to pretend the last 3 games didn't happen, that it's all sunshine and rainbows, and we have a young squad. We chose to have a young squad. I couldn't believe Jorginho didn't play against Southampton. We bought Jorginho in. He's been good in an Arsenal shirt. Then we play Fabio Vieira. That's someone I don't want to see play for Arsenal again. I want him gone, man, ASAP. He's done nothing for me.
Hey, I was going to say, Scott, but as well, maybe one player that's not getting under the microscope enough, and maybe it's because the broader season he's been quite well. But Ramsdale, he needs to cop some criticism. He got you a point against Liverpool, but copped you a couple of pretty soft goals, in my opinion, against West Ham and against Southampton. So all the praise, fine, but he deserves some criticism as well. So he's been culpable like the rest of your back line.
100%, man. It's been, look, rocks and diamonds when he's come up clutch in some big moments for us, but he's also let us down at times. I think every player on that team, the only ones I would say are exempt from kind of criticism, I would say Granit Xhaka this season. Never thought that'd be the first name. Gabriel Martinelli, who for me has been scintillating, and Bukayo Saka. I would probably say they're the only 3. Zinchenko defensively was caught out again. Right back has hurt us. Yeah, there's not many players.
Saka did miss that crucial penalty against West Ham, though. He conceded. If you lose it, that's a turning point. But look, it's harsh.
I can't hang someone up on a penalty miss. Like penalties are penalties, but it's going to be interesting times. When we play Manchester City, I would be starting Zinchenko in the middle instead of Fabio Vieira, and I'll be playing Kieran Tierney on the left. Zinchenko spends more time in the middle than left back anyway. He's not great defensively. I think for that game, we've got to have Kieran Tierney on the left. Let Zinchenko run around in the middle. Granit Xhaka will be back. Thomas Partey, Xhaka, Zinchenko. There's your 3.
Is that because Zinchenko is better at getting the ball out of the net after Haaland gets a hat-trick, or why is that?
Look, let's wait and see. Stranger things have happened. And
I agree with RJ. I wouldn't play Zinchenko. I would play Tierney, and I wouldn't put him in my midfield if I'm going to be honest.
Yeah, but the problem is if we don't play him, right, we've got Xhaka, we've got Partey. Jorginho, I would be okay with, but I think against the pace of City, I really think they might catch him out. I'd be okay with Zinchenko. He's one of Arteta's favourites. He's going to play. He will play.
I want to see you guys fight fire with fire. I want you guys to go there and have a go. I don't want you to sit there and try and hit them on the break.
I think we will. I don't see us defending, Robbie. I see us attacking City. But I just don't know what the best way to do that is.
I think you've just got to watch Jack Grealish. I think everyone's talking about Haaland. He's the guy. He's got a hot hand at the moment, so he's one I'd be worried about.
But look at them this morning, boys. This is the beauty of their squad. None of our clubs have the depth of Manchester City. Even if Grealish and Haaland are quiet, Riyad Mahrez will pop up with a hat trick. If you can keep
Julian Alvarez.
Yeah, then you've got Alvarez who will come on, or
Bernardo Silva.
Bernardo Silva.
Kyle Walker comes on defensively for cover.
They're freakishly good, man, and I just hope that's what I want my club to do, because we're going to be in the Champions League next year. I want us to go now. We've got a first 11 that can compete for a title. We need to now build a squad that can not only compete for a title, because competing is step one. Sustaining a title challenge then is step two, and I think that's where we're falling short now.
No, you took the words out of my mouth, because I just want to. I know it's a look into the future, but right now, if I was to say to you, Scott, do you think Arsenal can repeat this kind of season next year? Like, is this a flash in the pan season? Have done great. They're in a title challenge. Are they going to be challengers for the next 1 to 2 years, or bang, are they going to be back in a top 4 fight again next year? You reckon? Just what you think?
I hope so, Robbie.
Liverpool should be back. Chelsea could be back. United will go again. City will go again. Newcastle's in the mix now.
You know what, Rob? When we missed the top 4, everyone said, Arsenal will be back next year. It took us a very long time to get back.
5 years.
I'm not automatically assuming that Liverpool will be back. I've seen nothing from their owners to tell me that they're willing to spend. Who's to say that Chelsea will be back next season? They're going to have a new manager. They've got a lot of new pieces. Like, anything could happen, and that's why we love this league. That's why we love this league, because anything can happen. But I hope we're still challenging next season. I expect us to be challenging, but now we need to not just challenge, but sustain it. We need a squad. I'd like some fringe players like Yuri Tielemans to come in, or look at another striker. Yeah, a Maddison I would take, and Ivan Toney I would take as another option.
A Raheem Sterling you'd take.
You know what? I wouldn't be against Raheem Sterling at Arsenal. I think Arteta would know how to get stuff out of him. So
he wouldn't get in the team for me. He doesn't get in the team for me.
No, he doesn't start. God no. But on my bench, I'd be happy to bring him off.
Yeah.
Alex saying City will win the title. Look, yeah, it's looking that way. But here's to hoping, mate. Here's to hoping they don't. Boys, is there anything else from the wild world of football you wanted to cover before we wrap this stream up?
Quickly for me, boys, you know my little love story with Wrexham. Finally promoted to League 2 next year, which is massive. If you followed the documentary, obviously the 2 superstars bought the club. They've done the whole documentary. They broke all the records under the sun. They finally done it last 2 nights ago. They got 15 years in the making. They got promoted. So yeah, it was a nice kind of fairy tale, man. And look, it's crazy how such a small Welsh, in National League, a team like that has broken and, broke the internet pretty much compared to something. So a nice little story. And look, if you haven't watched the documentary on Disney Plus, honestly, it really is worth, and especially now with season 2 being made on this season, it'll be really good to watch again.
Beautiful.
Yeah, that story was a football thing, some would say, Robbie.
Definitely.
Just also want to praise all the semi-finalists for both the Europa League and the Champions League as well. It's going to be interesting. Scott, you touched on it for the Champions League with the Milan derby and Real Madrid, the current holders, versus what many people suspect to be the blue hot favourites to win the competition. I'm very much looking exciting for both of those clashes, but also even in the Europa, because Robbie, you'd be disappointed because of United bowing out. But that should also be an intriguing Final Four in that competition as well.
Spot on, boys. I just want to add something domestically. I've been stewing on this for a couple of weeks. Obviously, the A-Leagues, I'm not talking about MacArthur. We know that there was the move to bring everything to New South Wales for the final series. A lot of fans, ever since that move, been coming out, boycott the finals, boycott this, boycott that, don't go. Just quickly, let's almost quickfire this. What's your opinion on that? Is that a football thing, calling for these boycotts because of the move to New South Wales?
I see both sides. Look, again, like this year, obviously as a Wanderers fan, first time in 6 years where we've definitely locked our finals in this year. I went to the game on Friday night as well. Last home game of the season, nice 4-0 win over Wellington Phoenix. But look, I kind of see where it is. It looks a bit salty from some of the teams, like, oh, we're not making it, we're going to boycott it, this and that. I understand money is a big thing why they've done this whole change as well. So that's going to help obviously boost it up and all that. But for me, I did like it how it was kind of the old way. You kind of earned the final and stuff like that, especially how far people got to travel. I think in their minds, it's always in the minds, things are going to work. But, if we get a Wanderers versus Adelaide final in Sydney, or even a Melbourne City versus Adelaide in Sydney, it just doesn't make sense to me. I think they're saying it could be, out of Allianz or even the Wanderers' home ground, which is 30,000. I don't reckon they'd fill half of that for a final, which is pretty sad. There'd probably be more neutral people watching the game than actual supporters of the team. So I understand both sides of it. Yeah, look, I'm sitting on the fence on this one.
Arch,
Robbie.
fans, we're boycotting, mate. We are boycotting as MacArthur fans.
You guys should just boycott in general and just freaking just fold.
Look, we were just doing the honourable thing. We're not going to compete in this schmozzle of a final series until they fix the format. We've done our bit. What can we say, hey, Scott?
That's right, mate. That's right.
Well, that's it. Like, to me, it's got to be commercially driven. That's what it is. Guaranteed big dollars. Most big competitions have a neutral venue because you have to book it in advance because you can't wait a week before and work out who's going to play where. Yeah. But it does suck for the spirit of the game, the spirit of the teams that have earned their spot in the final. But if we're fair income about trying to grow the game, we can't just keep tugging at the heartstrings and trying to cater for that audience. So you're right, Robbie. It does suck. There's no win-win situation, unfortunately. But I think this approach guarantees the money, and money talks in this sport, unfortunately, and we need lots of it. So that's how I feel.
100%. And quickly from me, look, I think if your team makes a grand final, I remember there have been times when I've done away trips for A-League matches interstate, and you'll pay the money, you'll get accommodation, you'll fly or drive or get a minibus. I think if your team makes a grand final and you're just going to cling to a point for principle and not go and watch your team, if you could, I think you're really just hurting yourself. I mean, the league is already struggling as it is, and I just worry that if the league was to go under, these same people calling for boycotts are going to be the same ones who are devastated and mourning the death of the A-League, but you also promoted and pushed boycotts and not going to finals games. So you can't have your cake and eat it too. If the administrators believe we need that money and the league needs the money, then so be it. You do what you got to do. But boys, it's been 43 minutes. It's been a good chat. Couple of rants, couple of moments. Looked ahead to the FA Cup final, which is still a long way away. We'll do that again later. Talked Chelsea's new manager. Talked about Arsenal and whether or not they bottled it. And we've talked all things football. Just remember, guys, Spurs get battered everywhere that they go. 6-1, Newcastle. I knew you could do it. Take care. Enjoy your football. Look after yourselves. See you later, everyone.
Ciao.